So I am Rachel Leavitt. I have been a lifelong member, but currently I have started a group called the Brigham Young Racial Reconciliation Ministry. I am a descendant of Brigham Young, so had some various impressions of needing to work towards some racial reconciliation, and so I work currently with the support of a group called Black Lives Bless and the Sema Hadithi Foundation, which is in Utah. And we work to hold conversations. Currently, this is what we're doing. We're holding conversations like this in order to help facilitate dialogue about race, racial history in the church, even just how do we dialogue together about hard topics. What does this look like? I use a particular format that is really meant to help facilitate, honestly, difficult, more polarizing conversations. So there's a particular format to it, which everybody will kind of see what we're doing. And yeah, we've got a lot of other projects that are in the works, but right now our main focus is on these conversations just to begin talking about race in the church and how to do that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to be a part of this conversation, and I'll just turn the time over to you. Run us through this process.
Okay. So like I said, there is a very particular process. Normally we will do something like introductions after I do this part, but we did the introductions first. So we start out with something called conversation agreements. Basically, these are agreements that we make with one another as we're moving into this conversation. So I'll go ahead and read them and make sure everybody understands them, see if there's any questions. So number one, we have confidentiality. We're going to maintain the privacy of our discussion here, though. I mean, here we are in front of everybody, so that may be a little void, but mostly when we do these, we are confidential. We have listening. We are going to listen attentively and respectfully to each other's perspective. We try not to interrupt that when somebody else is talking. Basically, we're trying just to listen. That's part of the point. Sharing is a part of our agreements. We're going to share from our own experiences. We do try to utilize I statements. So instead of telling somebody else what they're thinking, believing, or experiencing, we are saying what we are thinking, believing, and experiencing. It's based on our own personal experiences. We come with curiosity. We really want to have a genuine desire to learn and explore the topic and learn from the people that we are in conversation with. A sense of responsibility of our own learning and growth. We want to be willing to kind of look at our own biases and assumptions and experiences within ourselves. So if we, at conference, we often think that conference talk is for somebody else. I know the perfect person for that. Well, we're not doing that. This is for us, not for the person next to us. And then commitment, we're remaining committed to the goal of healing, growth, and understanding of one another so that we can help each other as we move through this process of just kind of learning about each other and how we think and experience life together. So any questions about that?
I'm
Okay.
good.
Perfect.
I'm usually very contentious, so I'm glad that you read those rules.
Okay. I will say also that these are difficult conversations. The one we're doing today is not quite so contentious or conflictual, I should say. There's a difference for me. But that said, if anybody, because we're kind of all in different places of learning how to speak and talk about these conversations, if anybody has problems out there listening, totally feel free, I guess, put them in the comments. Let us know what you feel may have been something that may have been harmful that you heard, or maybe a historical fact that may have been false. We definitely want to leave space for people to be able to address those outside of the actual dialogue. So okay, so yes, I will be reading a paragraph. This is typically how we do it. I'll read a paragraph and then we'll go ahead and just answer some questions together. It usually goes something around Robin experience. So this is actually the particular topic that we have today is called The Hearts of the Fathers and the Children Turning. And obviously that's from one of our scriptures that we know and understand as, ancestry and genealogical work, really. So I have a quote from Maya Angelou, who's really a beautiful, beautiful writer. I really love her, so I'm sure people are familiar with her. But she says this: "Not enough adults have told you you are all we have. Everything we've done, negative and positive, has been for you. You are all there is for us. You've the best we've got, and we need you. Know that you are already paid for. Whether the ancestors come from Ireland in the 1840s, 1850, trying to escape the potato blight, whether they come from Eastern Europe trying to escape the pogroms, whether they come from Asia in the 1850s to build a country, to build the railroads, and were not allowed legally to bring their mates for 8 decades, whether they come from South America trying to find a better place, a better land, so that they can make a better life or better lives for themselves and their progeny, whether they came from Africa lying spoon fashion in the filthy hatches of slave ships. They have already paid for you without any chance of ever knowing what your faces would look like, what personalities you would carry, what dreams, what magnificent breakthroughs you would make. You have already been paid for. So in your silence, in your solitude, it is imperative that you know when you face the microscope, which doesn't reveal immediately your request, when you look at the yellow pad, if you're trying to write a piece of poetry, and know that all you've got to do is get some nouns, pronouns, a few adjectives and adverbs and so forth, and they won't come together for you. No matter what you do, when you are absolutely alone, go inside yourselves. I encourage you, and understand that you have already been loved. And then all you have to do is prepare yourselves. Always prepare yourselves so that you can go out and pay for someone who is yet to come. So I am going to read a couple questions, and we'll kind of see how much time this takes. I'm going to read 2 questions, and you can kind of pick and choose from those questions what you want to answer, and then we'll kind of see how that goes. So kind of something to think about. Can you think of a specific historical events or struggles mentioned in the quote that resonate with your ancestral background? How does this connection influence your sense of identity and heritage? And can you share a personal story or experience that has strengthened your connection to your family's history and heritage and faith, highlighting the continuity of love and support across generations? So you can kind of think about that. And I can go, but Stephanie, do you have something immediately off the top of your head?
No, you can go first.
Usually when I read this quote, I cry. It lists a number of very difficult circumstances in which people actually came over to the Americas. And for me, I look back to my pioneer ancestry, and I think that's something we learn a lot about in the church, and it's part of my heritage quite deeply. So I do really honor and respect those stories. And as I've kind of actually worked through this process of racial reconciliation, I've had to really look at really integrating the good and the bad of my ancestors. And that can be hard. It's really easy to bring forth all the wonderful things of our ancestors. It's really hard to recognize that those things that are really difficult. But as we've actually gone through some of these conversations, something has really struck me, particularly as I talk about Brigham Young. I, as his ancestor, recognizing some of the consequences of things that he did or said, I want to, in myself, bring forth the things that are really good about him. I want to exemplify the good in him, but I also want to examine the things that aren't so good and figure out if they're a part of me. And I don't want that part to continue forward. That's the part that I want to bring the good things forward and let the other things go. And I honestly think if we believe in a gospel of families and the continuity of generations, I know I would want my children to do that. Take what's good of me and get rid of what's bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. Spotlight the good.
Mm-hmm.
I believe from a Black standpoint that we need to teach, educate, and uplift our people of color, especially the children, with history of things that we have accomplished. In my family, I managed to get back to my great uncle, no, grandfather, and he was actually part of the legislation of Mississippi in 1874 and 75. And so I mentioned this once before to people, but I told them, my nephew, I said, you see this man? He is black with these other blacks in this big folder of mixed people. Don't let anybody tell you as a black man you can't achieve things, you know? And in the church, especially, we need to know about the black pioneers, Elijah Abel, Jane Manning, Elizabeth Manning, Greenflake. We need to know this. And my personal mission is to change how the semantics of the priesthood. People will say, well, how can you be a member of a church that just gave the priesthood in 1978? That is not correct. It was restored. Okay. Back in Joseph Smith's time, there were Melchizedek priesthood holders that were black. Okay. So, and that's important to know. Like Greenflake, he and his troop came to Utah first before everybody else to scout out the land. And it's just like, this is what we did to build up this religion. And we need to know or teach people, you have a lot to offer to this religion.
I love that. And I love my experience with family history has been mixed. I started off, as a youth in the church, being encouraged to do indexing and things like that. And it was kind of mind numbing for me personally. It wasn't personal enough for me. Like, these weren't my ancestors. These were names scribbled on papers that I could, hardly transcribe or hardly read. So I would say that when family history kind of came alive for me, it was largely because of these books, these really thick books you see on the shelf behind me. Those are the History of Utah volumes by Orson F. Whitney. And they've been handed down in my family. And in, I think, every single one of them, you see the name of one of my ancestors written on the inside cover, Francis McLean Snell. And he had an entry, a little biographical entry in one of those volumes. And so it was kind of the first time I was like, oh my gosh, like one of my ancestors was involved, like part of this story. And it's not just his story, he's just a small piece of the puzzle. And that's been a lot of fun for me looking through family history, is it is personal to you, but it's not just you. Like, they are participating in the bigger picture. They are participating with Rachel, your ancestors, and Stephanie, your ancestors. They probably knew each other at some point, back down the line. So when I started to kind of uncover that, that's when I guess you could say that spirit of Elijah really kind of caught fire in me for a while. And I tracked down another ancestor that was a bishop in Spanish Fork, one of the earliest bishops, might have been the first bishop. And I tracked down his grave in Spanish Fork. And once I did that, I found all these other Snell gravestones in the same location in the cemetery. And it was just like, holy cow. One, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for, this history, these people. And two, it was just kind of overwhelming what I didn't know about them. So there's that. I would say that there's that seed that's been planted in me. And I'm a big history nerd in general, especially Utah history. And so it's an important thing just on a personal level, just to know kind of your story, your heritage, and where you have been involved in the history of things. but it's something that I'm hoping to learn more about in the future.
Perfect. Any other thoughts that people want to bring out? Okay, so this next question is just kind of reflecting on that idea that you're all that we have, as Maya Angelou said, and that everything kind of done by previous generations has really been for the sake of, younger ones. How does this resonate with kind of the concept that we have of hearts turning between generations, particularly in the context of striving for a better future? This concept actually is really what expanded my idea of family history. And I agree with you, David, that it seems really uninteresting when you're indexing. Great. I don't want to put that down. Actually, there's something thrilling about finding right names and getting them in the right place. I will say that. but when it became personal, and there's faces that I put to the names, and not only that, there's those names, whoever they may be, may have been thinking about me, particularly as they went through struggles and trials that, were they, it makes me wonder, were they thinking, I am doing this, I am going across the plains, I am working at this job that I hate, I am doing all these things for my children. And I think as parents, you can kind of get that concept. But when I think about the idea of previous generations thinking even longer than that, with an extended vision, that actually really sits well in me, I guess. It makes me feel connected. I don't know if they really were thinking that, but I know I think about that sometimes. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I want to make a better world for the people who come. And actually, even with racial reconciliation, I sure hope we can have greater unity. I sure hope we can bring this about in a way that my children will have a much better world, and much more unity between people, and peace and hope. So it's an important concept for me that brought family history to a completely different level, a much more connected level for me. So it's something that I appreciated even as I was kind of looking at this quote, and anytime I talk about it, it just strikes me even more how much I love the idea that my ancestors were thinking of me.
So with my family, I've had a lot of grandfathers and uncles that were Baptists, Methodists, and whatnot. And we have Catholics and Jehovah Witness. And I thought to myself, either we're all crazy or we're all ambassadors to the Lord. And as I do their work, I'm pretty sure on the other side, they see the importance of it, of the ordinances and, those special covenants made. And I think of myself trying to connect the past with the future generation as far as temple ordinance goes, because I believe in the temple ordinances and I don't want my family to be without those blessings. So, some people struggle to go to the temple, and it's like, this is what I can do for you. You survived a lot of stuff, and I want to make sure for all the sacrifices you have made for me to be this far in life, to be at this time, that you get all the blessings you can from God. So that's important. My mission, though, I'm trying to start this group called Saints in Unity, where, we learn about the Black pioneers. We encourage our members to come to the Genesis group, because we have to learn each other's gifts. Okay. And it's like I told the stake president, if we could keep our Black members here, the Spirit of the Lord would be so great. Okay. We would raise the roof. And, that's what it's about, knowing that we're not separate. We're striving and working to build the kingdom of God. And no race or color by themselves can do this. Even in the past, you know, the plantation people, okay, they had the colors help them farm the land. You know, they couldn't do it by themselves, could they? And that's something we need to look at. Instead of saying we're not equal, we are equal in order to achieve a goal, you know, and it takes a lot of parts.
I was just going to say, this is not a paid advertisement, but I love Genesis Group. If people watching have not been, please go look it up after you finish watching this video, of course. Look it up and find a way to attend, because I've only been twice, and it's just been amazing both times. It's been such an eye-opening experience, and it completely revolutionized my idea of what reverence means, in the best way, because you've got the Deborah Bonner gospel choir up there singing "Man in the Mirror" by Michael Jackson in a chapel, and this is a totally sanctioned, church approved group, and you're just like, this is what I've been looking for. This is amazing. And it's just a fantastic organization for those who, people don't know enough about it. People haven't heard about it as much as they really should. But anyway, can you, Rachel, can you repeat the question for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of reflecting on the idea that you're all that we have, and that everything kind of done by previous generations has been for the sake of the younger ones. How does this idea resonate with the concept of our idea of hearts turning between generations, particularly in the context of striving for a better future?
Gotcha. So in response to the question, I wrote down a bunch of things, and my paper is just a mess right now. So I'll see if I can decipher this. But what has resonated with me as I've gotten older, and I'm not particularly old yet, but I'm starting to wake up with aches and pains. We'll just say that. When I was a kid, that was all there was childhood, and it lasted forever. Everything you knew was being a kid. And it just felt like that's how it was going to be forever. And then you leave high school, and I went on a mission, went to college, got married, started having kids, and all of a sudden, like, the years just start dropping like flies, and it's kind of scary. It's just like, I am now, my earliest memories of my parents, that's how old I am now, and that's a weird concept to think about, but it's just made me realize just how brief this life is, and just how close we already are to being those ancestors for the next generation. It just feels like in the blink of an eye, somebody else is going to be having a conversation like this about us. Like, we're going to be the people who have passed on. It even makes me think about the Book of Mormon, where you've got prophets speaking from the dust to us in the latter days. Even they had us in mind. And so it just makes me reflect on, what can I do for not only my kids, but what kind of legacy will I leave? And not just a personal legacy. Like, it's not necessarily, I want my great grandkids to look back and think about how cool I was in life, but like, how did I contribute? What did I add to the puzzle of, society? How did I help other people make it through this little blip in the plan of salvation? How many people could I, bring with me as we move through, the trial of life? And that's not to say that, I'm a superhero by any means that it just easily grabs everybody I can. Everybody's struggling through it, but I don't know. It's just kind of a humbling thought that it's going to be over real quick, and what are we going to leave behind for the next generations? And also at the same time, just the thought that people have passed on, but they're not gone. I often think, Rachel, about your ancestor Brigham Young, and I in my job I deal with a lot of controversial stuff, controversial history, much of it having to do with Brigham Young. But I think, okay, this is maybe what he did or what he said. I wonder what he's doing or saying now. I wonder what he thinks now about those things. And I think that when we think like that along those lines, it makes it so our ancestors aren't so far away. Like they're here with us. The spirit world is here on earth. We're separated from them by a veil, so to speak. But they're not so far away. They're not as far away as I think that we think sometimes.
Thank you. I love that. Okay, usually we go on for a number of other questions actually, but we'll kind of wrap up here. So we always do a last question or kind of group of questions just as a reflection experience. And so we'll go, I'll read these and then we can go through and answer them. So what was shared today that resonated with you and why? And then as you listen to our experiences today, did you notice any common themes or shared emotions? And then based on these stories and perspectives, what concrete next steps can we work on individually and or together? So I get to the end of these conversations and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, that was great. Like just these brief thoughts. And I feel that way now. I love the actually that idea that there's we also are continuing on, and we will quickly get to the end of our days also, and to think about what we all care about to move forward with. And I like Stephanie talks about often her mission and wanting to talk about the Black pioneers and bring their names to the forefront. I think we all have these things that we want to share with people who come after we do. And I love the idea, David, that you mentioned our ancestors still being by us. I greatly feel that and have felt that even through all this experience. I have talked to a couple of Indigenous people also, and they are I love their concept of the ancestors. That is huge. And I love bringing that into our conversations because it's very real to me right now. So that also really resonated with me, the idea that thinking about where our ancestors now, and are they giving us that push? Are they trying to help us? What are they putting in our way to help us move forward? How are they wanting to look at our lives right now? And I do have a faith and belief that that's a reality. So, no, let me think next steps. After these conversations, particularly when we talk about our ancestry, I am always really wanting to look more at my family again, like go back and like pull out their stories. I want to know them more. And even Stephanie, I love, now really learning about the Black pioneers and finding the intersections in between our families. I have a number of stories now where I've found intersections in between my lives and other people's ancestors, like how we intersected. It's fascinating to me. And so, yeah, I guess that still pushes there for me. Like, oh gosh, I want to know these stories. I want to know who they were. I want to know their trials and their struggles. And so it just always makes me want to learn more about who they were, because it's who I am. It's a part of me too. So it helps me understand myself also.
It's coming to the end quickly for me at 62. So, but the thing that resonates with me is really not just looking at the names and finding the names, but actually learning who they are. Your ancestors, I mean, they were people who made our lives better, people who came up with inventions and, they had a story, you know. And if you were like downtrodden and you read a story of how somebody went through so much struggle and they overcame, that gives you strength too. So those stories are so important, you know.
So for me, something that resonated with me, and I kind of been thinking about a little bit lately, is I'm familiar with the history side of um, kind of racial issues in the church, and the controversies there and things like that. I'm less familiar with the people and the experiences of those people. So it what Stephanie has been saying has been resonating with me. And I look up to you, Stephanie, because I need to get there as well, where I'm more familiar with those people and how they're part of my story as well. Um, because they are. I know they are at some point, because we're all part of each other's story, especially when it comes to, pioneer ancestry. We're all there. And we're all involved in each other's lives. But that's something that I want to do, is not just, it's just reading the history in a textbook is different from reading a pioneer's personal journal as they were going through the events that the textbooks are writing about. And I'm familiar with the textbook stuff. I want to be familiar with the personal experiences and kind of get to the point where I can put myself in their shoes. And I think that that's a really good way of kind of developing compassion for what people have gone through, which sometimes you don't get from a history book. Sometimes it's a little more dry and, just here are the facts. But it's different when you put yourself in their shoes. So that is something that resonated with me, and something that I hope to be able to do better at. And I need to find more resources that help me do that. Ones that are coming to mind, if people are looking for ways to do this as well: Century Black Mormons. That's a project by Paul Reeve. Well, he's involved in that project. We've had him on our show in the past. Even just going, if you're a Utah resident, going to, this is the place, park is a park monument, and they've installed those monuments for Green Flake and some of the other pioneers. Are just going there and reading about them there is just something that we can all do. Okay, not all of us. I guess you could probably find those things online too. I'm sure they're available, but just little things to help put ourselves in their shoes and become a little more informed and a little more compassionate and a little more understanding, and gain a little more appreciation for what life was like back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, Stephanie, you probably know a bunch of resources too, because this is your.
Okay, so here's the thing. First of all, why do we have to make things so long when we name it? Okay, this is the place, Heritage Park. Okay, that's what it is. But most of my research came from the church site. All you have to do is type in Black Pioneer. And I'm like, wow, look at all these people. And I mean, they have some original documents, and Elijah Abel's license to be an elder, signed by Joseph Smith. And so it's there, but people don't know about it. It's just like with Genesis. It's there, but people don't know about it. It's been there since 1971.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So,
Yep.
and it's just a matter of teaching.
Very good point. Very good point.
So yeah, that's the way our conversations go. We usually just kind of wrap up with a goodbye and when we'll meet next. So if anybody's interested, I do this on a weekly basis now. It's open to anybody who wants to come do it. We don't record them, but it's just something we do talk about some trickier topics and kind of more messy topics too. So But yeah, so I appreciate you guys being willing to talk about these things, and I always come away really just feeling a lot of gratitude for the people who come and being willing to share their stories. So thank you.
Fantastic. Rachel, thank you so much for guiding this conversation. If I'm hoping that people are in the comments section giving their thoughts and feelings on this topic as well. Everyone watching, thank you for being here. I hope this has been as uplifting for you as it has been for us, and we will see you next time.